The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
23 minutes to 8 the time. Warren Ingram is a certified financial planner at Galileo Capital, and he joins us now. Tonight's topic is how to spot an investment scam. Warren, good evening.
Good evening, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I mean, so often I sort of think the way to spot an investment scam is the moment that someone offers it. But anyway, so we know that people are obviously and sometimes quite desperate to build up their investment. So how do you tell the difference? And I suppose the first question really is, there are some things that are good products, but how can you tell the difference between what's really a legitimate investment opportunity and what actually is going to turn out to be a scam, and one day you're going to be one of those people in the Sunday papers?
I think the starting point is to understand who or what company is promoting the product or the scam. So it seems to me a lot of the scams nowadays are promoted online. You'll find some finfluencer that will be telling you about some kind of almost a secret. This is an investment that's that's only select few can access, and don't go and spread the word to everyone else. I'm offering this to you as a very limited opportunity, but please don't tell anybody. It'll be that kind of message. Or, the other one will be, the system. I don't know what the system is, but anyway, it's the system is rigged against you, and the system doesn't want you to make money. So listen to me. I know how to help you make your money. And so it'll be something like that. And very often it will be, structured in a way that's not regulated. So, for example, the first thing I would do if someone says to me, "I've got a new investment," I'm going to say, "That's great. Who's the regulator? What's the number for this?" So, for example, are you a financial planning business? Great. What is your and the phrase for this is the FSP number. What's your financial services provider number? Because anybody who sells investment products in South Africa would need to be registered with the regulator, and they would need to have an FSP number. It's such a simple thing, and believe it or not, it's a government website that works. Go and check it. And if they don't have one, red light flashing, warning sirens, run for the hills. You're probably being offered a scam.
Sure. And I suppose one of the other things is you've got to look at who's promoting it and where. For example, social media. And social media is full of these things. If it's not that, it's a crypto scam. But there are so many that are being offered only online.
Exactly. Now, I can't believe how sophisticated some of these are. So for example, you'll get one that will say, "We're going to teach you how to trade cryptos. So you need to download a particular app," and then they'll tell you what app to download, and so you go and do that. And then over the next 3 months, for a small fee paid in dollars, we're going to teach you how to trade. We're going to show you the buy and the sell signals, and all of this must happen on our app. And so, the unsuspecting person does that, and they go and trade on this app, not knowing that actually the app is rigged. There is no market. There is no actual buying and selling going on in the background. This is all happening like a game, and the person that's supposedly teaching you the way to trade knows exactly what to tell you so that you buy something that's going to go up and you're going to sell something that goes down. And after 3 months, you say, "Well, this is incredible." And then they say, "Okay, now you need to invest your money onto our platform, and then we'll give you your trading access, and off you go. You know how to do this." And surprise, surprise, you put your money there and it's gone because it never, the thing never existed. So it'll be something like that. And therefore, if you're going to choose an investment, you need to understand, who's the provider, and really, like, key in this whole thing is, where are your investments going to be held? Is it going to be held on a stock exchange? Is it going to be held as a registered unit trust, or is it going to be in a life assurance company? And find out what those license numbers are, and find out who the regulators are. It's not difficult to do. It takes you 15 minutes to do, to check these things, and most people just don't do that.
I always think the great secret to these things is they make you feel like you know something and you're special compared to everybody else. And you're an insider and the rest of the world is an outsider. And you know this. And because of that little, "Come here, let me tell you something nobody else knows." That's really the con, isn't it? I mean, there's a human need to know that.
Exactly. We want to feel clever, and we want to feel that we've got the edge this time because things haven't worked in our favor in the past. And the big companies out there are the ones that are making all the money, and it's now finally our turn. We've got the secret. And I guess when we look at very big businesses nowadays that were started in someone's garage, we all have a sense of missing out, and we all would like to be the one that backs a bit of puts a bit of money and backs the next person that's starting their business in the garage. I mean, to me, what we really should do, Stephen, you and I, is we should go and find that garage, because it's obviously a very fantastic place to go and make money. And so I think all of us have this psychological desire to catch up, and that's great. You need to understand that about yourself, and then you need to stop and don't chase that urge, because unfortunately it requires an enormous amount of luck to be the person that finds the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next Elon Musk, if that's really what you want to do. And the likelihood is that most of the time you're going to find the person that's got a big idea and no ability to execute, and unfortunately will end up using all your money, if they're honest. Alternatively, you're finding the scammer that's just preying on your emotions.
We're talking to Warren Ingram tonight, Personal Finance on The Money Show. Your calls for him, your thoughts for him as well. Have you been a victim of one of these scams? How to protect yourself? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Voice notes as well, please, on 072 702 1702. The other big attraction to these things, of course, Warren, is that they promise high growth, and they really promise it. They say, give me your money. I promise you won't lose it. Not every investment can say that. And that's one of the things that makes them so popular, makes them so attractive, makes them so tempting.
Exactly. And when people are financially squeezed and they're desperate potentially to kind of dig themselves out of a hole, something that comes along and says, we're going to offer you an investment that generates 2% a month. It doesn't sound like a big number, but when you put that to an annual amount, it's a huge amount. It's far more than any other investment could do on a consistent basis. And if someone says to you, I've got something that's going to give you very predictable returns, 1 or 2% a month, every single month, and shows you a graph of this investment doing that for the last 5 or 10 years, and they're now offering you access to it. I think just to understand, if something grows, let's say 25% a year, it takes about 3 years for the investment to double. And so, if I've got something that can grow at 25% a year, almost guaranteed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to borrow as much money as I can and pay prime, whatever that is, 11%. And I'm going to invest all of that money into the borrowings and or take the borrowings and invest it into this thing and keep going. And in no time, I'm going to be as rich as Bill Gates, and I'll have used the bank's money to do it. So why on earth would I go onto social media and go and sell that to my 10,000 closest not friends that just join me on a media platform? It doesn't make sense, but so often people get caught. And I think you need to understand the stock market is the thing that has the best history of giving us long-term very good growth. And, over the last year, I think the JSE delivered 25%, and that's an astonishing return. We're thrilled about it. There is no one saying that we think it's going to happen every year for the next 5 years. It's simply not going to happen. What's going to happen is it's going to move in an absolute roller coaster pattern, and that's normal. That's healthy. Something that gives you 25% a year or 30% a year in a nice straight line, I suspect you are investing money in a scam, if that's the case. And at some point, the musical chairs will stop and you might be really sad.
So often these things turn out to be not a Ponzi scheme, there's another phrase for it, a pyramid scheme, where the moment it stops is when people stop getting new investors. And you can almost predict sometimes to the day when this will happen. And they can be huge. At one point, 1/3 of the population of Albania was involved in one pyramid scheme.
Yeah, and I think we, neither you or I are kind of victim blaming here. I think these schemes are are often quite sophisticated, and they use really good psychological tricks to hook people in. And when the thing falls over, then people feel really stupid and really ashamed of what happened. So I have a lot of sympathy for people who are in a difficult position, and then someone whispers in their ear about a secret, and the person whispering in your ear most likely could be a very good friend who has been scammed themselves. That and what they want to do is they want to bring you in. And what they don't realize is they're probably getting paid some of your money as a return on their investment. The other one that really bothers me a lot is when someone says, we're going to kind of create the Amway of investments. So it's multi-level marketing. We know the investments don't work in multi-level marketing, schemes. That's just simply not how it works at all. But what they'll do is they'll say, I'm going to teach you how to become a business leader, and I'm going to sell you a chip of gold or a brand new crypto coin or something. It's going to be a share of the next Trump Tower, whatever it is. And so they're not actually promoting the quality of the investment. What they're doing is they want you to get other people to come on board, and then you get a share of their money, and so on and so on and so on. So it's not exactly a pyramid scheme, but they're not really promising the earth in terms of quality of investments. They're trying to get more people to market to more people, and none of this stuff is regulated. These are investments that no one can track and no one can find, but somehow they continue to kind of go from selling one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And in South Africa, Stephen, it's the same 2 or 3 men doing it over and over again, time and time again, and they just don't seem to go to jail for some reason.
You have a couple of questions that you should ask the promoter. One of them is, how does the promoter get paid?
Exactly. If you've got such a fantastic investment and you're offering it to me at 25% growth a year, that's amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate the gift that you're giving me. Just tell me, how much are you getting paid, and who actually pays you? Is it my money, or is it the product provider, or how does it work? And how do all the fees work in this whole scheme? And I think it's a very quick way to number one, understand transparency. And if someone's coming to me and asking me for a lot of my money, I don't want a brochure. I don't want a fancy website. I want detailed audited financials from a registered auditor showing me how the money works. If it's going to be unregistered and it's all going to be private and secret squirrel and all this stuff, great. Show me that they're proper financials. And I want to call the auditor, and I want to go and see if it's a property. I want to go and see the property. It needs to be real stuff. You need to do some homework properly on the ground if you're going to commit money to this.
We're talking to Warren Ingram tonight, Personal Finance on The Money Show, taking your calls as well. How to spot investment scams. Have you or someone you know been taken for a ride, lost some money? 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. A question for Warren as well, coming in from Robone, saying, I'll be 65 next year. I'll be retiring. I think I'll be comfortable with the monthly pension I'll receive. However, I'm not sure how to invest the lump sum that I'll be receiving. What should I be thinking about? I want to put this money aside in case I need additional funds in the future. It's a great question, Rabone. We'll have an answer for you from Warren in a couple of moments. Talking to Warren Ingram, Personal Finance on The Money Show tonight. Tonight's topic, how to spot an investment scam. But also a question from Rabone saying, I'll be 65 next year. I'll be retiring. I'll be comfortable with the monthly pension. Not sure how to invest the lump sum that comes with it. What should I be thinking about? Warren, it's a great question. I mean, Rabone obviously wants to put the money aside in case he needs some money in the future, but wants to look after it, wants it to grow.
Yeah, and I think it's there are kind of 2 big goals with those kinds of retirement lump sums that you get. So if your monthly amount, your monthly pension is going to cover your usual costs, then your 2 jobs with the balance of the money that you want to take care of is, one, making sure that you've got enough money to look after you in the event of an emergency. And then, for planned lump sum expenses. So just to talk about the emergency, I think, somewhere around 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses is a good amount to have in an emergency account or an emergency fund. And that should not be a high growth, high return investment. That should really be a money market account linked to your banking profile or money market unit trust. And it's simply there to help you in the event that life happens, the geyser bursts, or you have a car accident and you need to pay the excess on your insurance so that you can get everything fixed. It's for something you just can't plan for. So make sure that you've got the emergency money set up. So some people at retirement wanted a bit more than that, so they might go to a year's worth of expenses. I don't think you should do more than that, but that would be the one. And then the balance of the money would be for things like replacing your car. Now, for some people, they'll say to me, I'm retiring at age 65 and I've bought my last car. And I always wonder how long they think cars last, because you could live for another 30 years in retirement, and there's no way that cars will last 30 years nowadays. So make sure that you're setting aside some of this money for those kinds of lump sums where you need to top up a trade-in value on your car. And potentially for some big expense, when the roof needs to get replaced or repaired, or the house needs to get painted, all of those kinds of things are probably not going to be covered from your monthly pension. So I think it's money that you really want to protect. You really want to make sure that it's going to grow. I like choosing kind of a balanced unit trust, or a mix of an equity index and a bond index, something like that. And then the emergency fund is absolutely critical. And let's hope you never use it, but it'll probably be the thing that you would be most grateful for when life happens.
And I mean, what you're trying to do there, obviously, is plan very carefully for the future. Even though you're retiring, what you're doing is making sure you're making the most of the resources that you have. And as you say, you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's quite comforting for a lot of people. Well, let me start with the first 2 years of retirement. Rabone, will be terrifying, because that's what happens to most people, because now suddenly you don't have a salary coming in, you've just got money going out every month. But once you adjust and you get used to that psychologically, it becomes quite comforting to have that money in the emergency fund, knowing that you've got it when you need it. And then making sure that you are protective of the capital that you've got, but equally don't go and compromise your entire lifestyle because you're terrified of overspending. Make sure that you control your expenses. Make sure that you set aside money for traveling. The fact that you retire doesn't mean you can't go on holiday, for example. So it's making sure that you've got a balance between growing your money, which you absolutely must do, and then not making silly decisions on the other side. But remember, at 65, most of us nowadays will live to probably age 85 to 95. So you're not planning for another 5 years. You're planning for 25 to kind of 35 years. So you have to go for growth. And unfortunately, you have to get used to stock markets moving up and down and all the terrifying stuff that will happen in the news when it's Trump or Harris or whatever's going on in South Africa. All of that stuff is going to be scary. But you need to stay invested and keep building your capital to take care of inflation and to look after yourself.
It's interesting when we talk about people who get scammed and the investment scams. I would imagine there's a certain group of people who are kind of right in the big target zone, or let me call it the zone of vulnerability for scammers. And these would be people nearing retirement age who haven't saved enough and are desperately, but have some money, and are desperately trying to find a way to grow that money as quickly as they can.
You are absolutely right, and maybe also people that are a few years into retirement and have now realized that that what they thought was enough, unfortunately, is not getting them through the month, and they know that they're not able to generate much more money from work. They can't go back to work, and so now they try to find ways to make the capital that they've got to make it work harder and grow faster and kind of get them out of a hole. So it certainly. That is a group, Stephen, that are extremely vulnerable to scams, and often, they've got already they're embarrassed or maybe a little bit ashamed about the fact that they don't have enough and that they don't know who to speak to about this, and they don't want people to know. So and instead of being able to ask the kind of sensible, rational people in their circle of friends about what they think, they just go for the scam after doing their own little bit of homework, because they don't know and they don't want anyone else to know what's going on. And the most vulnerable in that situation from an emotional point of view they then find themselves in a much deeper hole with much more trouble. So, I just want to say, if you're in that position and you're worried about your retirement money, please don't, follow something like this and don't ask questions because you're ashamed. You should really be asking the people that are good with money about what to do and what they think, and then most importantly, listen to the input. Don't go out there and ignore them because you're just dreaming about getting the money to grow again.
Warren Ingram, thank you so much. Always good to hear from you. Co-founder of Galileo Capital and, of course, a registered financial planner. And remember, if someone's offering you an investment, the old advice is always the best. If it looks too good to be true, well, that's probably because it is. In the case of investments, almost certainly it is because it is too good to be true. And then look up the FSP number. Should be on the website.